Hello, it's me, Anna, the creator of Soul Hum, and I'm sitting here in a hotel in Vegas, and it just kind of occurred to me that I figured I would do a video and talk a little bit about kind of just this interesting experience of being in Vegas. And I'm going to be 3 years without a drop of alcohol in my system, really. Like, I've had alcohol in this sense of like probably in a tincture or whatever, but like that real, concentrated effort of not having any alcohol. And yes, Soul Hum for me is very much about my sobriety journey and really way more than that. But what is Soul Hum for others? And I'm always thinking about that. And sometimes when I get away and have some time to myself, different thoughts do come into my mind. And one of the things I wanted to share that I thought was really, really interesting is, when I was struggling with my own relationship with drinking, I was kind of consumed by it. And it's like living in this world inside of my own brain and thoughts. And, I'm older now. I've done a ton of work on myself, and I'm just kind of like in this different thing of like really making this connection for myself that like the world that I live in is so internal. It's my thoughts, it's my perspective, it's what lenses are dropping down from experiences in front of my eyes to shape that perspective. And so anyway, so I'm here in Vegas, and it's like, it's a very cool experience. Beautiful hotel. Families are here, people are here, and the enemy that was alcohol for so long for me, it doesn't exist here, right? Because it is no longer in my life. I don't have a relationship with the consumption of it, and I don't have a relationship with the consumption of it because I was battling an anxiety disorder and, all this shit, call it what you want, but it is shit, right? And it's all this stuff that sucks and it doesn't feel good, and I didn't like it. And I just progressively over time found this wonderful tool called alcohol, and it was wonderful, until it wasn't, because it's unfortunately, alcohol abuse is a progressive disorder. And even if you don't have alcohol abuse, if you're using it to cope, it is, poison to your system. You're going to start having health problems and all of that crap. You're not going to sleep. You're going to have anxiety. If you have anxiety, it's going to get worse. If you have depression, it's going to get worse. And if you don't have any of those things, you're going to invent them in your life because it is a toxic substance you're entering into your body. And if you're somebody like me, who, didn't like remotely feeling hungover, did not like going through even the smallest of alcohol withdrawals, I would immediately just start drinking again. And so anyways, like being here in Vegas now, it's like I'm also getting this opportunity to have a perspective of, whoa, a lot of what was going on for me the other time I was in Vegas, it really wasn't about much other than what was going on literally in my own world. And so like that's just this interesting thing about, and why I love having Soul Hum, because it's this constant reminder, or like bringing me back to having these conversations with myself, having these moments of clarity or observation or just curiosity. And it not only reminds me of how far I have come, but it really reminds me of like the joy I get out of not drinking alcohol and not having a sadness or like, oh man, I wish I could just have one. It's like I don't even want that anymore. And it's, I think, worth celebrating because it's gotta be a reminder to other people that if you are in the thick of it and you are struggling and you are hating your relationship with alcohol, there is a path forward and there is a way out. Because while I can sit here and have this new experience being really surrounded by, as I demonstrated yesterday with my video, you know, a bar in the room and, you know, people walking around, they have their drinks and, you know, went to the pool to get a little bit of exercise this morning. And sure, some people are drinking coffee and juice. Other people, you know, it's 9:30 a.m. in the morning and they're getting their fun. What I used to be like, oh yeah, just get my Bloody Mary, I'm going to feel so much better. Like, none of that actually, like, there was a time I thought I would never be the person at the pool that went there in the morning hydrated and wanted to like work on her hip flexors. And now I am. And yes, I'm only going to be 3 years actually sober from alcohol. That journey, that's why I don't really get too hung up on my sobriety date, because for some people, relapsing and, you know, wanting to quit drinking and then being able to quit drinking and then going back to drinking, like, all of that is part of it. And I was very fortunate to go to a place where they viewed the relapse often as part of the process. And so, you know, there was definitely a period where I was like lying awake by myself, and I can remember it very clearly, thinking, how can I not figure this out? Out of all the things I've done in my life, how can I not figure out how to stop fucking doing this shit with the alcohol, Anna? Like, come on. And there was hopelessness, there was guilt, there was shame. But every time I ever felt that way, at some point, the scale always tipped back where I felt like I can do this. I'm not giving up. I can figure this out. And that is why I'm sitting here today. And I have lived with guilt, and I have lived with shame, and I have lived with embarrassment. And I at times hate that I even had the problem. You know, wouldn't it be nice if my track record was perfect? But I think what I'm really taking out of it is like, God damn, Anna, you were resilient, you were strong, and you didn't give up, and you got there. And this message is out. I'm putting it out there because there were times that I was hopeless, and there were people that, unbeknownst to them, just by existing in the world and just by not giving up, I kept seeing this light. Like, I got to keep trying, you know? And so anyways, just deep thoughts by Anna today, I suppose. And I just, you know, I think a lot about Soul Hum, and I think a lot about social media, and that we share this information on social media. The average person does not watch past 3 or 6 minutes. And so I'm not going to keep trying to make these short videos just for trying to, you know, do all these things that are important to grow a brand. Because let's face it, if I don't grow the brand, if I don't make it successful, then I can't keep doing it. It can't be a hobby or a passion project forever. I do have to take care of myself and my family and all of this stuff. But I also think it's okay for me to say, hey, if I knew somebody needed to hear this, I wouldn't care about the capping it creatively at 6 seconds or whatever. And so it's really just an interesting, very, very great experience to be here in Vegas and to see that what I'm taking out of it is that it is the world that I live in. It is my perspective. It is my lens. Those lenses can be shaped and removed if you've had a lot of bad experiences by getting good help. And that's really where they talk about like processing through trauma, whatever that trauma may be for you, slowing things down. I had a facilitator and we talked a lot about, you know, the power of slowing things down so that you can process the negative, the not so good feelings, right? We love the good feelings, but it's the feelings that are uncomfortable that we don't like. And if you are somebody like me that was leaning on alcohol to help get rid of those feelings, well, that's a dangerous thing, because we have more uncomfortable negative feelings than we do a lot of times the good ones. And the crappy ones are the ones that always stick out, right? the ones that are the joy, like they're so fleeting, they go so quick. And then, you want to hold on to them and you can't, because that's not the point of feeling those either. Ride the wave of your emotions. But they don't say just ride the wave of the bad ones. You got to ride the wave of your emotions, period. And so I'm here, and 4 years ago, there were moments in my life that I thought I would never figure out how to make it 30 days without alcohol. And then one day I made it 30 days. Then one day that 30 days turned into 60, and so on and so on. And I did work during that process. I didn't white knuckle it. And I'm sitting here, and that is proof. So if you don't like your relationship with alcohol, don't give up. Maybe don't try to do it alone, but don't give up. And just keep, if you relapse, keep going. If starting over the date bothers you, don't start it over. It's just a fucking date. Like, that doesn't matter. What matters is that you are alive, and that you're breathing, and that you have another opportunity to continue to have the relationship with yourself that you want to have. And if you don't even have a relationship with yourself, then I would definitely suggest, think about what that means for you. I didn't have a relationship with myself that I liked, but I didn't think about a relationship with myself at all. And then all of a sudden one day I started having this relationship with myself, and I was like, damn, this relationship needs to improve. How do I do that? And so it begins. So anyways, I'm going to do another video later, because this one is pretty long, so a lot of people probably won't last for the whole thing. And I just kind of like want to put out some feelers on, Soul Hum potentially going on tour. I would love to get to meet more people. I would love to get to take Soul Hum with me. It would be me driving, so I would be able to like get on the streets, do samplings, talk to people, and potentially just keep the conversation alive. And I think for Soul Hum, the conversation is, how do we create rituals? Like, how do we rewrite the ritual for ourselves? And I love that term, ritual, instead of a habit. Like, rituals can be short, rituals can be long, but rituals implies that there's this positive thing. It's not like, ugh, I have to do this. But like, how can we, as a human species, clearly living in a world with a lot of suffering and a lot of beauty, but it seems like, news and media and all the stuff, it's like the shit sells, right? Good stories are good stories and we love them, but often the negative stuff, the scary stuff, the oh my God stuff, like that does sell, and that is what is focused on. And so I'd love to keep getting Soul Hum out there. I view it as a light in my life. I view it as a talking stick. And I also view it as this way on my not so extroverted days. I'm a very interesting person. I can be very extroverted, but I really am introverted, and I need a lot of downtime to recover from my big extroverted events. It's like Soul Hum is like this opportunity for me to talk to people. I love talking about plants. I love talking about food and beverage. I love talking about flavor profiles. I love I just love what food and drink really is in so many cultures. My grandfather was Croatian. In Croatia, food and meals and sharing them with family and loved ones, like that's a sign of fortune and blessings and harvest and all these things. And Croatia's not the only culture that does that, right? It's so common in so many cultures because we're coming together and we're sharing in something beautiful and wonderful. And so I've been thinking a lot about taking Soul Hum on tour. Most of you know that we are based in Ashland, Oregon, so it would make a lot of sense for me to be going through Oregon, maybe up into Washington, come back and regroup in Ashland, and then from Ashland I can hit Northern California, San Francisco. From San Francisco and there's surrounding communities in there, I could get down into San Diego, and then from San Diego I could get up into LA. outside of that, it would be a second tour de La Soham. And that would be more likely where I'd have to be like on a flight or something. But I just would love to be able to do that if people were, you know, interested. I'd like to start the dialogue now because it would be something that I would want it to be impactful, and I would want it to continue the conversation of mental health and physical health, but really it all starts with mental health. And if you're not mentally healthy and if you're not feeling good about yourself, it's really hard to be physically healthy. And I think that June is also Men's Mental Health Month. I think it's very fucking scary that I think it's 75% of suicides are men between the ages of 40 and 49. I have 2 boys. I'm married to a man. I lost an uncle to suicide after my son Ethan was born. I think that it's good to talk about mental health because unfortunately when we're suffering in silence, I think that's when things get really, really dangerous. So anyways, just wanted to do a little video, and I am wishing everybody love and light always, and I will talk to you all soon. All right, bye.